A secret underground pyramid hidden in the wilderness of Alaska. Is it a power station? Are nefarious experiments taking place there? Today, two jackalopes will explore the Dark Pyramid. I'm Floyd Whiting.
And I'm Aaron Linden.
And we are your jackalopes.
And we are it.
Emmy and Steve had other obligations that they had to meet, but Aaron and I decided we're going to go forward with this. And so everybody knows, our fans, there's no one to ground us.
Yeah, mainly we were like, do we do a show or do we not do a show? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, we can do anything we want.
There's no one to pull us out of the sky. So I think it's a fantastic idea. So we decided to choose a subject that, not that they wouldn't enjoy it, but one that we can go kind of off the rails with a little bit. So get your tin hats out, folks.
Oh, absolutely.
In the early 90s, scientists studying shock waves from a 1992 underground nuclear test recorded a grainy, pyramid-shaped spot of interference 700 feet below the surface of interior Alaska. The age, the origin, and the function of this building was unknown. Pyramids. You've heard us talk about this multiple times.
Go check out the pyramid episode.
Absolutely. Some people theorize that these things can produce power based on drawing energy from the ether. That's just the air around you. The energy that actually exists around us all the time could possibly power homes in the near future, and could actually have powered an entire society before we even showed up. Now, where does this come from? Army Chief Warrant Officer Doug Muchler was a counterintelligence agent posted in Fort Richardson in 1989. While trying to orient himself to his new duty station through the use of maps, he came across a large, whited-out section. The rest of the entire state had been surveyed, except for this one area that was completely blocked out, except for the words, "not surveyed to date."
And that doesn't seem suspicious
Not at all. Like the U.S. Geological Survey just decided we're not going to survey that one area.
We're just going to wipe this part out. That's fine.
Makes no sense, right? Serious. So he said the entire area the entire state had been surveyed, except for this one section. Now, when these Chinese tests had taken place, and you can actually look that up, those are confirmed to have been done, it sent shockwaves through the entire Earth. And so geologists decided, you know what, we're going to use these to our advantage the best that we can. And they actually found readings of the pyramid shape inside that whited out area.
Which is like, 60 miles west of Denali?
I want to say it is.
Something like that.
Now, just so you know, there's no record that I could find of the geologist finding this pyramid.
Right.
Because I thought, well, they would have had to have recorded this somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
They probably did.
And then the MIB showed up and said, no.
No, you didn't. Larger than the Great Pyramid in Giza, Doug wanted to actually catch the newscast about it because he had seen it he said like upwards of 40 people were in the room with him when this newscast come on.
Yeah, on the 6 o'clock news, right?
Right. And it said, hey, because of the shock waves, geologists found this odd shape. And so we thought, wow, that's kind of out of this world. Massive pyramid, 700 feet below the surface in Alaska. That's something I want to remember. So he rushes home. He throws tape in the old VCR, and he's thinking, when the late night news comes on, I'll record it.
Yeah, 11 o'clock news.
Yeah, I'll have some records.
It's just basically kind of a rerun of the 6
Pretty much.
PM.
Yeah, we work in news, so we know, hey, things have got to be repeated quite a few times. You didn't catch this broadcast. Maybe you'll be able to catch that one. But it never aired.
Odd.
So he thought, well, that's kind of strange. So he decided the next day, since he worked in counterintelligence, he kind of knows his way around a secret or two. So he heads down to the TV station, and he says, "I'd love to see your broadcast that was run at 6 o'clock. Maybe get a copy of it. I'd really like to keep that." The program manager basically told him there was no broadcast.
Right, the story did not exist.
Have no idea what you're talking about.
He didn't see that at 6 o'clock with 40 other people.
Yeah, and would you kindly find your way to the door? He could kind of tell that something was going on. So as he turns to leave, realizing that he's not going to get anything out of this guy, a junior employee of the news station pulls him aside and says, "Look, I could lose my job for this, but yes, it ran. You're not crazy. It's just as soon as it ran, 2 individuals showed up, told us, give us the tape, give us everything having to do with this, and speak of this never, ever again."
And they claimed it was because it had to do with a Chinese nuclear test, so it was national security. Everything's always national security.
Man, it overrides everything. Everything. All right, so because Doug worked in counterintelligence and he understood kind of how this stuff works, he knew that was going to be kind of the dead end there. But then he gets a new post, and so they move him closer to the flagpole. And he has access to an intelligence archive that very few people will ever have access to.
Because that was, 93?
I want to say it was 93.
And he
moved.
got stationed at Fort Meade, which, if anybody knows anything about Fort Meade, it's no such agency.
That's right. The National Security Agency right up the road. So... But because of his position, he's got access to this stuff. And just out of common curiosity, I don't think Doug was trying to start any problems with anyone.
I think he was more like, okay, this area is whited out. That's kind of purportedly where this pyramid shape was. I would want to know more.
I'd want to know more too.
I don't think he was being nefarious about the whole thing. I don't think he was.
I think it was just common curiosity where he's like, hey, this thing took place up here. Now I have access to some stuff that I didn't have access to before. I'm going to go in there and just kind of figure out what the heck happened.
Nose around a little bit.
Why not? I would. So he heads in there, and he thought for sure that the kind of the gatekeeper was going to stop him dead. But he said, look, I'm looking for information regarding this underground nuclear test that China performed and seismic readings that came out of that. I guess without blinking, the individual at the front desk wrote down a series of numbers, basically outlining where this information could be found in the archive.
Good old Dewey Decimal System.
And just handed it to him and said, go for it. It's all yours, man. So he goes down the hall into the archive. He finds the information that he wanted. He sits down. He starts to read it. He said, I do believe it was like 2 minutes.
It was not very long.
It wasn't even 2 minutes. He said that he was reading when 2 gentlemen walked into the room and basically said, you do not have a need to know this information. They took it and asked him to leave. And that was that. So years later, his curiosity got the best of him. He got out of the service. He'd done his duty. And he contacted legendary UFO journalist Linda Moulton Howe. A lot of people in the UFO community will know this woman. She has been at the forefront of a lot of breaking stories.
She's kind of the face of UFOlogy.
Right, yeah, when it comes to like journalism and digging, and this woman does her homework. She knows what she's doing. So she began to dig. She reports that an anonymous call actually came in because when you're investigating this stuff, your name starts to get around. This guy called me. That woman called me. They started asking these questions. Do you know this person? And so you can be contacted by individuals saying, hey, I heard you're doing this. I just want you to know that. And that happens actually quite frequently. She reports that an anonymous call came in confirming to her that the pyramid was in fact very real, and the caller actually gave it the name the Dark Pyramid. And this caller, who still remains anonymous to this day, nobody knows who this was, said that it is made of black stone. It stands over 550 feet from the base to the top. And the plot actually gets pretty thick after this because other people have come forward. Marty Johnson, an engineer who supposedly worked on the Dark Pyramid project in the 1950s, meaning that even though we got this geological survey, geological information, we've known it was there for
a while.
Johnson described the top secret facility actually accessed an elevator shaft that went down to the pyramid, and that they had been studying this structure for quite some time.
They've had engineers down there since the 50s.
The 50s looking at this thing.
And oddly enough, it says black stone because they're not really sure what it is. And oddly enough, one of the reports was that the angles of it were 48 degrees on the sides instead of 45, which I don't know what difference that would make.
Yeah.
But that cropped up in several places. And I'm like, what's the significance of 48?
Maybe it's got something to do with the power output.
Well, that I don't know.
Right.
Or how it gathers or how it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, maybe Giza was part one.
Right.
Right. Phase one of the ancient alien project. And this one in Alaska is phase two.
Well, and so the funny thing about it is, and we'll get into it, it generates a ton of power. This thing generates a ton of power, enough to power the country, probably. But that it's just part of an ancient alien power grid.
Yeah.
Because you look at where it is and the ones in Giza and South America, and they're all over the planet. For people that don't know about that, I mean, there's pyramids literally
Everywhere.
on every continent.
Yeah.
And was it an ancient power grid? Likely.
And you know, that's one of the things that I brought this up in other shows, and it bothers me so much that the system is the way that it is. If you're an archaeologist or a scientist and you want to look into this stuff, you need funding. No one's going to fund you for this fringe type of research. Instead, you're labeled like a kook, that your theories are nuts, and no one wants to give you the time of day. And that always frustrates the hell out of me because who knows what we could actually find if we were very open about this information. You know, I've heard and read theories and rumors that people have seen a UFO basically built into a room underneath the Great Pyramid.
Right.
And now they've found these tunnels under the Great Pyramid, and they won't allow anybody in there.
No, because it's archaeologically preserved.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'd love to see. Take a camera down there. Walk me through the whole damn thing.
They can't. There's ancient bacteria that could kill you.
See, that's insane. Look, man, I have seen guys go into heavily bacteria areas. There's suits.
Mm-hmm.
There's equipment you can use to get down in there, and you don't need a whole lot to do it. And
they just don't want you to.
They just don't want you to go down there. They don't want anyone to go down there.
Can't have these secrets exposed.
And see, it would open up a whole new field of research, study, and maybe belief is the kind of the stopping point there for so many people. Again, we talk about like whatever great secret that they know, they don't want out to the society because it's supposedly going to ruin everything.
Right.
What
well, imagine
secret
that
could
free
that be?
Power for everybody.
Well, and that's the one thing that I did want to discuss with you is what if all of this stuff is real? What if like what Tesla
if?
Well, I mean like the theories of like power generation.
Right.
And if the governments that are actually studying these things could get them turned on. Think about the power shift that would occur, the economic shift that would occur if this technology was out and about.
And so, not to spoil things to come, but what if we can't turn them on?
What if someone else knows how to turn it on and off, and they don't want us to know how to turn it on? Another piece of the puzzle actually comes from an individual, Lee Pearson, a veteran who actually claimed that he had visited a secret military base near Denali in 1978. Now, a lot of this information, from what I've gathered, comes from other people's sons. So like Johnson, the other individual, his son is the one who kind of made the claim this pyramid is a power station.
Right.
But this isn't Johnson. It's his son. Pearson's son, Bruce, actually later attempted to find this site that his father was talking about. So you get a plane, they go out there, they're flying around, they're trying to see, because there's always going to be evidence of human activity in an area.
Something, yeah.
Especially if you've got an army unit there. I mean, look, they're great at cleaning things up, but you're not going to remove certain things. And when I say those certain things, reportedly, they discovered signs of human activity, including an old airstrip and a road that is not on any map. And the closest road on a map is over 100 miles away.
Right.
So you've got to know where this road is to access it. You got to drive over 100 miles into probably some pretty rough Alaskan wilderness. And there's a base.
It's a concrete hut in the middle of nowhere.
There has been a general in the past who basically said, look, Alaska is an amazing area tactically. It is in the middle of nowhere and the center of everywhere. We can, because the earth is round, sorry to break some hearts out there.
Oh, man.
But because the earth is round.
Supposedly.
From Alaska, we can actually get
anywhere
over the hemisphere
right.
to a lot of different countries in Europe like that, to include Russia. First off, Russia's literally next door across the sea. So just got to do a hop, skip, and a jump. So Alaska is a tactically fantastic location when it comes to global movement. If I need to get people from point A to point B today, Alaska is a great spot to do it. So bear that in mind, that during the Cold War, I'm sure a lot of different bases were proposed. Hey, head out there. I want you to set up just like an outpost. Let's keep this place manned for a number of years, just in case. Because we were always paranoid that Russia was going to be a doorway for
right.
it.
They were just coming across.
Russia and China both. All they got to do is just
straight.
Jump on over. Plus all the resources that Alaska actually has. Having those at your fingertips, I mean, it's like leaving the treasure right on the doorstep and looking at your neighbor just waving, and your neighbor don't like you very much,
Right.
So we had to defend that area quite a bit. I want people to keep that in mind as we look at these things. Why is there so many military members there? Why is there, outposts out in the middle of nowhere? There are possible explanations for all of this, but there's also the possibility that there is a dark pyramid 700 feet under the ground that they wanted to try and get figured out. So supposedly he saw this airstrip, he saw this road, and I don't want to steal all the thunder from Aaron. I'll let you talk about Mr. Campbell, because just the theory of this thing is intriguing enough that it's caused people to kind of go out on their own, and unfortunately, not everyone comes home.
No.
So, Aaron, what did you find that could possibly be alien influence?
A ton. But so purportedly, this thing, you go down this elevator shaft, you get down there, and it's just hallways. Catacombs of hallways, very military looking, gray floor, the not brick, but kind of the laminated wall look, and nothing's really marked. And you get to the end of this one particular hallway, and there's a giant foot-thick, 15-foot-tall steel blast door. And that thing opens up, and inside the cavern is the Black Pyramid with bases all around it at each corner and everything, and all these studies going on and all this stuff happening. And so one of the gentlemen he worked in electronics. He was like one of the guys that was first into transistors and things, was brought to this site to help him try and figure out how to power this thing up, because they knew that it was generating power. They just couldn't figure out how it was doing it, if there was an on-off switch, what it was being used for, whatever.
And how can I steal it?
And how can we use it? So it's under the ground in this giant cavern. How did it get there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was not, Egyptian slaves or whatever building a pyramid under Alaska. Clearly alien influence, right? Has hieroglyphics on it, which I thought was weird. I couldn't find anything about details of the hieroglyphics on it, but there were reports, and it was when they said it was 48 degrees, not 45, and the hieroglyphics, and that it was black stone, but it wasn't necessarily stone. They weren't 100% sure what it was comprised of. So they had been working on it, we talked about, since the 50s, and they didn't know how to create the power or to utilize the power. And one of the engineers specifically said that it was generating enough power at any given time to power the entire northern continent.
Wow.
So us, Canada, Alaska, whatever. Again, ancient ties to the power grid around the world. The weird thing about it, though, is it was blanked out of the map, but it also falls perfectly almost in the center of the Alaskan Triangle.
What is the Alaskan Triangle?
So the Alaskan Triangle actually runs from Anchorage in the south to Juneau in the southeast panhandle to Barrow, Alaska. And it makes this triangle. And this thing's pretty much right in the center of it. People have reported that when they fly through this area, especially close to that area or Mount Hayes, where there's some other potentially nefarious things going on underground, where we're actually working with aliens, that their instruments go out, engines cut out, weird things happen, much like Bermuda Triangle in a lot of ways. So the weirdest thing about the Alaskan Triangle also is that there have been over 6,500 UFO sightings in the Alaskan Triangle alone, which is a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the most anywhere on the planet.
Heavy UFO
traffic, which tells me they're somehow able to be in that area and collect the power from this from the pyramid underground. How do they do it? I don't know. How'd Tesla do it?
Yeah.
I mean, he had a car that he had that antenna in, and he could cruise around the Tesla tower for free all day long. So I think it's a charging station for UFOs. But the weird thing is, in the triangle, it began to attract more public attention in 1972 when a small private plane carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, an Alaskan congressman, an aide, and their Bush pilot vanished into thin air. For over a month, 50 civilian planes, 40 military aircraft, plus dozens of boats covered a search area of 32,000 square miles. No trace of anything.
Wow.
No debris, no anything. And I mean, the dude's U.S. House Majority Leader.
Yeah.
They want to find this guy. Never, ever found him. So was it a mysterious disappearance? Yeah, for sure. Was it UFOs? Maybe. Was it an abduction? Probably. Just because
wow.
The further you go into this, since 1988, right? I say not that long ago. Some of the viewers probably weren't even born, but not that long ago, more than 16,000 people have disappeared in the triangle.
Without a trace.
16,000 with no trace. Send search and rescue, all kinds of teams out, everything. Nothing.
Wow.
No candy wrappers, no anything. It's almost like the mysterious 411 or whatever that we talked about, where these hunters are just going missing.
Literally just vanish in thin air.
At least there, they're finding their shoes and their backpack. And this, nothing. 16,000 people without a trace.
Like, and that's a huge area, and it is really rough terrain. But that many people, that's an extensive amount.
And annually, just in this area, we're not talking all of Alaska. We're talking, it's a sizable portion of it in the triangle. 500 to 2,000 people a year go missing with no trace.
It's incredible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. So my theory is, not only is the Dark Pyramid a power station, charging station for UFOs, that's why you have so much UFO activity in the area, but under Mount Hayes, our government is working with aliens on all kinds of nefarious different experiments. What do they need for the experiments? People. How many people do you need? I don't know. Let's say 16,000 that are in the triangle. We'll just take them. There's nothing left.
That plays on the idea that we're allowed to reverse engineer their gear, probably with help from them, as long as they can take some of us here and there. But
I think that's the deal, though. That's like the deal that the government struck, was like, okay, we want iPhones, and we want planes, and we want rockets. So you guys help us with that. What do you need in exchange? And they're like, delicious people.
On to that reptilians eating humans thing again.
Like I said in an episode like forever ago, because I think you brought it up. You're like, why? Why us?
Why us?
And I'm like, maybe we're the crab legs of the universe. They're like, it's just delicious. I can't
be
help
horrible,
myself.
especially with the things that we put in our bodies.
Right.
It'd be like, this one tastes a little opium-y. It's just terrible. But it's that idea where it's like, why would you choose humans to eat?
And maybe they're not. Maybe not all of them are eating humans, but maybe they're experimenting.
And again, what benefit would that have outside of, there's theories that aliens are actually us from the future coming back to try and get kind of more like pure DNA before some horrible event took place that changed everything, and they're trying to get back to being what we are now,
right?
Or cure some sort of disease. There's that theory. They've got a genetic disorder that they cannot seem to get rid of. One thing that always got me was the majority of grays all look the same. They might not be the same. I mean, who knows? But they sure as hell look like it, right? So if, let's say, something did happen, it doesn't matter what that is, but somehow it altered our DNA to the point where reproduction became, let's say, impossible. Go as far as to say absolutely impossible. We would have to clone. And we know that cloning technology is real. Cloning technology works, and it has since the 90s. And even though nations came together and said, let's not do this, we both know that
they're still doing it.
It's doing it. Someone somewhere is going forward with this. That
there
devil.
Was a dude actually in Montana, like, oh man, he was like 80 years old, some cabin in the middle of nowhere, and he was cloning some sort of rare, like, bighorn sheep.
Wow,
they just busted him. I mean, go back in the beginning of October of 2024, this month, this year,
just busted,
and it was insane. Like, he had a cloning operation. And he was selling these sheep for like between $5,000 and $25,000 to like hunting preserves and stuff. Insane. So it does exist.
And governments are doing it.
Whether it be some secret, 80-year-old dude in a cabin
can get away with it, right? And who knows how long he got away with that? Someone probably followed the money, where it's like, where the hell is he getting all this?
Right.
because that's got to be pretty expensive. Buy a cloned bighorn sheep of some who knows what fashion. But there's so many dangers that come with that. Who knows? Maybe at some point in the future, we actually decide this is a great thing to do. Let's go ahead and start doing it. And then we screw up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing about it. Once you cross that line and you alter DNA to the point where something wrong happens, how do you catch that?
Right.
How do you stop that? Well, you
got to go way back.
My DNA was altered, but we didn't know I was going to get this horrible form of cancer that we essentially invented until I was 75 years old. Altering my DNA was supposed to make me better, but it actually made me sick. Well, I've had 5 kids. Those kids have had 5 kids, and now they've all got that trait.
Right.
And it just continues down the line. What if it goes even longer than that, where we start altering DNA, we start playing with this stuff, and we don't find out about a problem until it's 20 generations in.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got to solve it somehow. Well, the only way you're going to solve it is by getting an original copy. So we got to go back in time. We got to get an original copy and figure out what the hell just happened to us. That's a theory about what happened or why extraterrestrials, especially the Greys, are here. So for me, they could have some sort of cloning going on, and they need our DNA to help out with that. That doesn't work really well with like what you and I kind of talked about and semi-believe, and that's Anunnaki. Mm-hmm. That the Anunnaki found us. They landed, and they were like, we need individuals because of an uprising of the slaves that they did have. They needed a workforce. And if people don't know, when it comes to DNA, there is something in every single human being in history that we can't figure out where it came from. Scientists call it ghost DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the DNA traits that brought us out of the cave. And they don't know why this happened. They don't know. And the thing of it is, it could be a mutation. All evolution is slight mutations, of a life form that makes it better going forward. I've often thought, and there's been books written about, are humans evolved to be on Earth because we, don't really survive very well here as far as an animal, but we don't. And yet we're the dominant species of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a planet that feels like we're just not suited to be on. And there's a whole list of reasons as to why. Cancer actually being one of them. Why, if we've evolved on this planet, how come this is happening? Well, outside influences, the sun and other things. But it's my sun.
Right.
And millions and millions of years of evolution should kind of train my body to be like, yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Right. You go outside for half hour at altitude and you get burned.
And
really?
and all of a sudden you're cooked and you're like, this doesn't make any sense really. So, I mean, there's other theories out there, but ultimately that's kind of my thing where I don't understand the abductions. It's easy on the surface to say, well, they found us. And they're curious about us, the same way that you and I are about a bug or a new ape that we find. Well, we got to know how this thing ticks. We got to watch its behavior. But if they invented us, if they created us, why would they have to put these multiple people through these torturous events? And I'm not bagging on people who have abduction stories. Look, there's going to be fakes everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But, some of these people have undergone horrific nightmares or true life experiences that have left them traumatized for life. I mean, it's changed who they are. And I don't want to bag on that because no matter what it is, they believe that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I honestly believe that they need to be listened to, because if something is happening, then we need to get to the bottom of it. If our government is involved in it, now I'm angry.
Right.
You don't get to sell me for any technology at all. And there is that big theory out there that the government made that deal, where, okay, you can take 25 every quarter. Don't do 26.
They've got it on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly.
And
here's your report.
They're doing like a balance sheet. Like, you still got 2.
And these theories about the Dark Pyramid being some sort of power station, I could totally get behind that, because I honestly think that that's what the Great Pyramid is.
Right.
I mean,
100%.
The more we look into this, the more that seems like it's the reality. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of people out there, shaking their head at me right now. I would say this: if you can disprove it, then disprove it.
Right.
Put an end to the entire thing by opening it up, allowing everyone to go in there and study, allow everyone, scientists to go in there, really take a hard look from top to bottom, publicize the hell out of it, and put it to rest then.
Never happen. Because then they have to own the fact that the Black Dark Pyramid's there, that the pyramids around the world are an ancient power state. Well, where the hell did that come from? Well, now you're just ripping it wide open, and it's never going to happen. They'll never, ever admit to it.
And that's the heartbreaking part for me.
Right.
If there is this Kabbalah of individuals that are controlling all this information, the only thing I could think of is wealth and power.
Right.
And I hate having to just bag on the oil industry again, but they're the ones benefiting from all of this. To hide this type of free energy that Tesla had figured out, that you can literally pull it out of the ether, and it's much more abundant than what anybody on Earth even realizes.
Right.
Once you unlock that, we don't need any other source of power. Mm-hmm. And if you look throughout history, it's all about energy. It's all about who controls the energy. The kings of even medieval ages, their energy came from fire. I control the forest, man. I control the food that you're eating. That's my land. All of that energy is under my control. And food is energy. All of it comes down to energy. And if you had that free and abundant, it would change the game.
Oh, completely.
From top to bottom. But also, let's look at the dark side of that. We have a population problem on this planet as is. So you and I were talking about alchemists.
Right.
Figuring out how to live forever. Could you imagine if we figure out how to live forever?
Oh, man. It'd be a lot of people.
Think about the population.
Yeah.
Think about the dredge on resources then. Even before the show, we were having a conversation. We live in Wyoming. It's the open area here is much more vast than what people realize. It's hard for people from European countries to understand how big, the United States and even just Wyoming really is. Mm-hmm. It's a difficult concept to
and just how vast it is, though, in the fact that literally, and I tell people this all the time, and I've even taken videos, like going from here to Casper, let's say, and go on like a Tuesday at 2.
Yeah,
when there's no one. It's 2.5 hour drive, roughly 2.5 hour. You might see 15 cars total,
and a lot of those are going to be diesel trucks,
right?
Just shipping stuff.
You can be around here and not see anybody.
Yeah,
you can go up in the forest and not see anybody. I mean, if you go to the touristy areas, sure, there's people all over the place, but I know places that I've never seen anyone.
Yeah,
it's very vast, and then you think about that. How many people go missing up here? Some, but not many. Most are either found or the remains are found.
Yep.
16,000 people disappearing in Alaska, in the Triangle, with no trace. And I get it's vast. But really?
Yeah, 16,000?
That's a lot.
If you told me, maybe 2,000, I'd be like,
right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over the course of like since they started tracking it.
Sure. I could get on board with that number. But 16,000 people? Yeah. That is an incredible, like, that's, call your congressman amount of individuals where it's like, that is too many people we haven't found the remains of, no evidence of their disappearance, no evidence of where they've gone, no evidence of where they were. I mean, they just went there. Right. And poof, vanished into thin air. Makes no sense at all.
The one guy, Campbell, I think, right?
Yes.
So they flew around, thought that they found the spot. So he has them land and says, pick me up in 4 months. Well, and then he went missing. Did he stumble onto something? And they're like, well, now you got to come with us. Did they use him for nefarious purposes? Who knows? But that, to me, you drop me off in the middle of Alaska, in the middle of nowhere, and I say, Floyd, come get me in 4 months. Chances are you're not going to find me in 4 months. Like, I mean,
right.
That one makes a little more sense to me.
But at the same time, I mean, there's people in Alaska who do that all the time. You know, there's people who wander out into the forest that they're dropped off by pontoon plane or maybe even dropped off the side of the road. They take their massive food supply and head into the forest, and they're like, I'll see you here, you know, in the fall.
Right. Because
once snow flies, you can't really do much in Alaska. But in 2020, Nathan Campbell embarked on a solo expedition believing that he could find this area that contains the Dark Pyramid. He had the coordinates. I mean, the area is large, but if you went up there and searched for months, you're not going to not run across it. You know, if anything physical is there, you could take the amount of time, you could do proper searches and find this thing. But yes, tragically, Campbell disappeared. You know, and like you said, when the guy dropped him off, they said he had about 4 months worth of food. They found his camp, but they did not find him. I do believe that they found the last entry in his journal was going for water. And that was it.
Yeah.
And other than that, he's literally disappeared.
Can you imagine? So you're up there, you're 3 months in, and you've kind of done this grid pattern, and you're like, okay, this is the one spot that I haven't been to that I think it might be there. And you're wandering through the forest, and you come out and you go across like this icy plain or whatever, and you crest the hill, and you're like, a concrete shack. And there's two dudes down there, and they're like, no.
Not going to happen. Yeah.
You found it. You're not telling anybody.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done. You're either the old adage, shoot, shovel, shut up, or, wow, you knew how to find us. You're living here now.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to put you to work. You're going to mop the hallway for the rest of your life.
Right. And I don't know, you know, this is a whole nother episode on remote viewing, but one of the people that Linda actually interviewed was a renowned remote viewer that said that they had traveled remotely to the Dark Pyramid, to the base, and saw the government meeting with the aliens. And it wasn't the Greys. It wasn't necessarily reptilians. It was kind of more like the Nordics, the kind of human-esque, but really tall and not quite human. Which leads me to believe, if you believe in remote viewing and that this person was accurate, go watch The Men That Stare at Goats. That's a pretty great movie. That it isn't necessarily, the nefarious bad experiments that they're doing, but more alien human hybrid type things, whether it's the DNA or there's an issue that they have run into and they're like, we got to go get, you know, our ancient ancestors' DNA and get this thing figured out. But they said that these meetings that they witnessed that were taking place were more of a scientific think tank going on. And I found that to be really intriguing, just because, you know, you think about the probings and the horrible things that they do. But if that's truly the case, I mean, what would we do to go back and figure out what causes cancer and be able to cure it. So if that's what it is, maybe they're taking these people, and maybe these people, for the amount of people that go into this area and come back is one thing. Maybe these people have significant DNA or an ailment that they're like, well, we can fix that, but we know that strand is going to be beneficial to us here. Who knows what it is?
So now we're going to put you on one of the ships for Solar Warden for life, right?
There you go. Go watch Solar Warden episode.
But you're right. You never know. It could be the slightest trait. The missing 411 individuals. That's one thing about that investigator. He's fantastic, by the way. Check that out. The UFO connection actually ended up finding in his investigations that these individuals who would go hunting, even locally here in the state of Wyoming, we've got a few that have just vanished for no reason whatsoever. They all share various traits, and the situation that surrounded their disappearance was extremely similar. Hunting in a new area for the first time ever, even though they knew the surrounding area so well. You know, when you grow up in mountains and you're a country kid, you get to know these things, right? But there's always that one spot. Well, I've never hunted there, so I'm going to go check that out. And a lot of these individuals did that same thing. They all shared Germanic backgrounds. They all shared various physical traits, and they're just gone. All of these individuals are just gone. Again, there's a lot of speculation surrounding those types of disappearances that link to like an underground. It's a massive cave system that people just don't know about. They think that they might be getting snatched and taken there, or an individual here in the state of Wyoming was actually, I guess you could say, abducted. He was asked by, I think it was more of a drone, less of an alien,
right?
But chisel hand.
Yeah, the old chisel hand.
You've heard us made reference to that, kind of giggle, but I believe that man's story. I believe him very much. He was taken and actually taken to the planet of whoever these aliens were that took him there, and healed of his tuberculosis, and scars were gone. These just gone. The bullet that he shot at the vehicle is still being studied. There's a lot of weird stuff going on about these abductions. Are they going up? Are they going down? Is it the Nordics? Is it the Greys? Is it Chiselhand and his buddies? Who knows? But various traits are shared by these individuals. So you're right. There could be one little thing that we don't even know about. Their brain works in the X frequency, and so they know how to do this. Something that we've talked about before, if you're abducted and they do take you to their society, and because, say, we can survive in those conditions, but I don't think we could, but let's say that they've made it so we can. And they tell you, you just got to stay here in this futuristic utopia. Everyone on Earth will just think that you vanished, that's it. Aaron and Floyd just disappeared one night when they went out to look at the stars. They just vanished. But you guys actually get to live out the rest of your lives on this alien planet, learning about our society. You won't have to worry about all these various things that you worry about. Would you do it?
Probably.
I mean, it's tough because it's like you got to leave your loved ones behind. But as far as we know, that could be what's going on.
Anything is possible, right? But when you watch UFO videos and see how fast they are, how they're in one place and then reported to be somewhere else across the planet, the same exact UFO type. If they're harnessing that kind of energy, that this pyramid purportedly can put out, you'd be able to do lightning fast transitions, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And there's too much to it to not be something. And everything's always so covered up that you and I will never, ever know whether it's real or not.
And
We're not going to
that.
get an
I
invite
hate
to the
that.
Black Pyramid, the Dark Pyramid. But there are people that have, and they've talked about it.
Yep.
So
Well,
do you I mean, prior to doing the show, because again, I know things that I don't know why I know things, but I had heard about this. But this isn't one of those ones that's like really, really out there.
no, yeah.
like a
this one's kind of
mainstream-
fringy. Yeah.
So why would so many people come out? And Linda, I mean, we've talked about Linda before, that she goes into these things researching as a believer. I mean, she wants to believe these things. So is that going to skew some of the information? Maybe. Not saying that she's not awesome at what she does at all, but I don't think you'd have that many people come forward and say, oh, I was there.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I
Or
saw
be,
a meeting.
Yeah, and be able to produce this
Right.
amount of information. I mean, and what does that take? What does that take? You and I sitting there one day, and all of a sudden something comes out where they're like, hey, they found a pink pyramid over here at this area. And you're like, okay, I'm going to make up a story that I visited it
Right.
back in 1972. I'm just going to pull this out of my ass, and I'm going to go over there and just tell all these people everything. You and I probably wouldn't do that. The average person probably wouldn't do that. And if you would, I'm sure that they've got some sort of filtering where it's like, okay,
Right,
I
yeah,
think
he
this
doesn't
guy's
know.
just, you don't know what's happening. Or you may have a disorder we need to get someone to talk to you about.
That's some medication.
And I'm not making fun of it. It's just, you've got to be able to filter that information out. But what would happen if I was a government was someone's talking
right.
about this one little fringe item that I've been able to keep on the down low for a long time. But now someone's yapping. So what I need is to contact Aaron at the office of BS, go out there, and start telling stories.
Right.
I need you to cloud this information as much as humanly possible. Flood it. I want so much information dumped on these guys, and make sure that there's about 30% truth behind it.
Right.
Just enough to confuse the shit out of them. And once you start doing your campaign, now you and I don't know what the hell's true.
Yeah, what's real.
And what's not. And I know that there was a whole branch of government dedicated to doing just that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's a negative thing. We've got top secret projects that need to be hidden. And I don't mean like aliens. I'm talking
I do.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like secret planes.
Sure.
Secret operations that we're doing to counter terrorism. Secret operations that we're doing to monitor various dangerous individuals in this world. We can't let that stuff go. We need that to happen. Brave men and women put their lives on the line every day. We'll never know their names, and they defend us all the time. I don't mind the intelligence community. What I do mind is the flooding of misinformation to skew the UFO community, to skew these stories of these people who've undergone these traumatic events we call them abductions, but it's kidnappings, and then
Right.
having experiments and torture undergone. And when I go to tell my story, all of a sudden a government agent shows up and he's like, nah, you're either not going to tell your story, or I'm going to start a campaign and ruin everything.
Yeah.
And this does happen. It happens a lot.
Can you imagine, though? So we get invited to the Dark Pyramid. We go down. We see it. We're like, holy crap. It's a real thing. We come back and we're like, this is a real thing. And everybody's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I was there. I saw it. And they're like, no, you didn't. Like the news story.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't there. It was totally there. But they said, no, it wasn't there.
And
they
if
made
you
it disappear.
had everybody saying that to you, wouldn't you start to second guess your own senses? You'd be like, God, Aaron, did we go?
Right, exactly.
Did they drug us?
We had a shared dream.
What, right? I can't stand it when they do that. Oh, it's mass hysteria.
Yeah, right.
Come on. Look, man. 8, 9 foot beings phasing in and out of reality in Florida, and you've got multiple individuals. I've watched multiple TikToks of these people talking about what they saw. And when you look in the eyes of those people, they saw what they say
No,
they
it was
saw.
just kids with sticks and fireworks.
Ridiculous, right?
But that's the story.
But that's how they stick it.
You
Yeah.
go, oh, we went and we saw the Dark Pyramid. And they're like, no, you didn't. Yeah, we did. No. What you guys saw was you went down this cave, and because of the lights and the shadow, it just looked like that.
It just appeared to be a pyramid. It was just a big dark space.
Right.
Yeah.
And
No
then
way.
pretty soon, after everybody's telling you that, you go, yeah, maybe it was just
I think I'm
shadows.
crazy.
That's weird.
Yeah. They gaslight you into thinking that you're nuts. And if you had the resources of an entire government doing that to you,
Oh, man.
you'd start thinking maybe I'm losing it.
Yeah.
But the people who stick to their guns, or the people who invent zero gravity, and the people who invent these massive 0-point energy things, look them up, because they've all come across some pretty suspect ways of checking out. You know what I mean?
And they've all checked out.
And they've all checked out. And that's scary. So that's the kind of thing that I absolutely hate, is that that's the truth.
Right.
You know, if you do this to further all of mankind, someone somewhere who's making money off of mankind doesn't like that. And they just happen to be the real government, the ones who were saying, you want to get elected? You better start playing ball.
Right.
And
But
that's
this is why
that.
they're not going to ask us, because we're going to be like, we saw it and we're totally talking.
Oh, well, that's the thing, is I really would. You know, if I got abducted tonight and they dropped me off like Travis Walton in a couple days on a country road, man, you couldn't shut me up.
Right.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
they can.
Seriously. Well, not the aliens.
Not the aliens.
But the government can.
Yeah.
But they haven't been able to quiet Travis. And I believe his story.
No, but they did wreck his life.
Yes, they did. They've worked pretty hard to wreck not just his, but those other loggers who were involved in that as well. And I mean, that's another thing. I've watched documentaries about an individual who watched a UFO over a bay and was kidnapped, abducted, and then they were dropped off, and he didn't speak about it for like 20 years. He didn't tell anybody anything. Didn't talk to his wife, didn't tell anyone. And everyone kind of knew what had happened. It was a big local legend because the man who was abducted with him, he did talk. That's how he dealt with it. This other individual, he dealt with it by remaining quiet.
Wow.
For over 20 years. And then finally he broke down and told his entire experience to his wife. And that man, his life was ruined.
That's because the wife was like, no, where were you for 2 days?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like this thing ruins lives. And so I try to approach these things with an open mind and believe people. There are some things that
There's some inconsistencies in this because, like, yes, the Chinese tested an underground nuclear bomb, and it did send the seismic waves out.
That's proof. You can look that up.
You can look that up. However, you know, when this guy finally came out and blew the whistle on this, he said it was at like April or some dang thing when that test actually happened, like in March. Or so it might just be misremembering some of the dates or whatever. So there's a couple of inconsistencies in it, but overall, there's a lot of consistencies
right
in it. And one of the other things that just kind of smacked truth was the guys showing up, taking the tape from the news station, the guy showing up saying, you're not doing this. There's always that level of, hey, you don't need to know about this. Stop looking at this. Go away, or we'll make you go away.
Mm-hmm.
That's a common theme through a lot of the stuff that we cover is somebody's clearly on the right track. If you got guys showing up, if there's a knock on the studio door.
Or a black helicopter above your house.
Right. And they come in, they're like, okay, you guys are done. Then that's probably our last episode.
And, well, then you're heading in the right direction.
But that's the thing. If they're showing up, you're onto something.
Yeah.
And most of these people, when they came out, were approached and said, that's it. No more. Don't talk about this.
Well, if there's a pyramid up there, like you said, we'll never know about it, but I hope one day we all band together as a nation and decide I'm tired of being told what something is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to go see it for myself. I want to go to that area for myself. I want to go down that tunnel in the Great Pyramid of Giza myself. Or I'm going to send a scientist that I trust and not one who's already bought into your system of grants or no grants. So, people got to feed themselves, scientists too. So, but there's still no excuse for me, which is obviously probably why I don't do it, to lie about scientific findings.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to like 0 point energy, when it comes to anti-grav technology. If things like this didn't exist, then I would love for someone to tell me why the U.S. government has a law where they can kill a patent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
If
just bury it.
If it affects my economy, I'm allowed to kill a patent. Bury it.
Yep.
Done.
We'll just take ownership of it. It's like eminent domain.
Yep. And then they hide it. And it's gone. I think that there are technologies out there that could probably literally solve all the world's problems.
Probably.
But it would remove power from those who have it. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts are, we covered it in the pyramid episode. I think it's a power station. I think this is a power station. I think that they're all over the planet, and I think that UFOs are using them as their little recharge station to get where they need to go and do what they need to do.
Whether that be a different planet or a different dimension.
100%.
Still need power to get from point A to point B. Do us a favor, like, share, comment below. Let us know what you think.
Subscribe.
And I want to thank Grant for coming forward and doing everything that he does behind the scenes.
He puts a lot of time into these.
Yeah, he does.
He puts a lot of time into the thumbnails, which are fantastic. And he makes us look and sound as good as we do.
Yeah, he does. You've been watching Jackalopes Explore.